I don't
What?
understand how that works.
Just
I don't
how do you
understand
do
this
this?
mod.
Sned, you are amazing.
Never mind. I don't
There's
get
no
it.
way it works
What does
like
this
that.
thingy do?
What's going on, nerds? Welcome back. My name is Sned. Today we're going to be working with Tetra. Now, I've heard the cries and I've heard the pleas, and let me tell you, I'm here to answer as many questions as I possibly can, and I sure hope that I can answer all of them. So, without further ado, let's jump right into this. Now, there's so much to this mod. There is so much that I cannot cover everything in one video. So if you guys want to see more, want me to get in depth more, then I will. But hopefully, I'm able to answer most questions with just this first video. We'll see what happens though. So, coming in, I know it's a lot to take in. We'll go through everything, but don't worry. One of the very first things you're going to want to do is get yourself 2 sticks and 2 planks. And with these 2 sticks and 2 planks, you're going to craft yourself up a hammer. There it is, basic tinkering. Craft a wooden hammer from 2 sticks and 2 planks. Tetra begins. Now, normally, this will also give you an achievement, like an achievement reward. As you can see here, craft a mallet from 2 sticks and 2 planks. Item reward, Holosphere. We'll come back to the Holosphere. For now, though, we'll give it to ourselves. So the Holosphere is going to be one of the most useful items in this mod, and we'll explain multiple different reasons why later. So, to get started, you're going to want to build yourself a crafting table, and then give it a bonk with a hammer by right-clicking. And that will turn it into a workbench. I'll be using this workbench, but I promise you they're the exact same. This one just looks cooler. So, what are some of the things that you could do with this workbench? Well, you could put items into it, and you could upgrade them. I promise it's as simple as that. I have a pretty strong feeling that once you guys understand the basics, because that's what's the hardest thing to understand about this mod, you'll be able to just fly through everything. So, we have ourselves a couple of different items in here. So let's check it out. So, right off the bat, you'll notice that you have a left head and a right head, and that's going to be weapon specific or item specific. Items, tools, weapons. So a pickaxe has 2 heads. An axe could have 2 heads, so like the second one will be a head. Same with the hammers. So one of the things that you could do first is upgrade your hammer. Well, if you want to try and upgrade it to iron, you could do that. And iron will be the best that you could use for a little while. Iron hammers anyways. So now we have an iron hammer on the left head and a spruce hammer on the right head. What does that mean? Well, if you have a tool that has the same material, for example iron, on the left and right side, it gives you what's called a synergy bonus. You don't have to know exactly what it is, just know that synergy is a good thing. So iron and iron is good, diamond and diamond is good. Iron and spruce is not good. Here's why. This little icon right here, this is the hammer icon. Watch this. When I hover over iron, it goes up to a 3. See that? So that means, because we're upgrading this to an iron hammer, it increases the synergy bonus. Boom. So now we have 3. It's super useful because with the hammer, once you find your first Tetra structure, it'll actually allow you to dig up the walls rather than if you use a pickaxe. I think I have a pickaxe. Using a pickaxe, these walls just they're not coming down, I promise. It is so slow. Whereas if we use a hammer, hey, it works. So why is the hammer tier important? Well, it allows you to do different things. So as far as the crafting goes, let's take a look at this plain iron pickaxe. We'll put that in our inventory. Okay, so let's say we want to upgrade this iron pickaxe. Maybe we want to warforge it, and that warforging happens because we have this scroll, the schematic that we found. I'm sure you guys have seen a few schematics around the world. If not, you find them in chests and random loot. I find a bunch in nether fortresses, I think. But they're scattered around everywhere. There's 3 different of these blue ones, and then a bunch of these different, like black and gold ones. chapters 1 through 8. It'll say chapter 1, chapter 2, and then there's a guild. Anyways, let's say we want to upgrade this iron pickaxe. So if we want to warforge it, we can't do that because we need a tier 4 hammer, and our hammer is only tier 3, if you remember. Boom, tier 3 hammer. So we're going to need to upgrade our hammer if we want to be able to warforge this pickaxe. We'll come along to upgrading the hammer later. Let's look at something else. Integrity usage, 6 out of 4. That's not good. So the integrity is how many different modules, we'll say, you could put onto each item. And different upgrades in these 4 slots will have a different effect on integrity. And most of the time, mind you, you could click here to see what items will do what. You could also right-click your Holosphere, and you'll be able to find out all of the information in here, even when you're not near a workbench. So for example, materials. Crafting materials, let's say wood. Most wood will have the exact same effect with some variations. The crimson and warped wood will do different things depending on what mod packs you're using. The Archmage wood will have different effects. But for the most part, personally, I use just wood, planks, whatever I have. I know this looks like a lot, and it is, but you don't really need to learn any of this yet until you figure out when to use them. So, now that we have our Holosphere in our inventory, let's check out the handle. The handle is one of the easiest ways to upgrade your item's integrity. So, basic handle, for example. We can now click here to view details, and if you hold shift, you'll be able to see what these items are. So these are all of the different items that are allowed in your basic handle. You could use anything from bamboo all the way to silver in your handle, and each thing will have a different effect. Currently, we have a flimsy handle, so what I personally like to do is click on that, because that'll show me where we're at. And then if you hover over something else, for example, wooden planks, it shows you the difference. So if we were to switch to wooden planks, it would give us a +1 integrity, but minus 0.1 speed. It gives us 6 extra durability and doesn't change the magic capacity. That's useful to know. Mostly because of the integrity. That's the biggest thing that I care about. The more integrity you have, the more you could do to a specific item. So, what else gives integrity? Well, you could use things like blaze rods or end rods. Bamboo. Blaze rods are good because they'll add +3 integrity to the wooden planks. So +4 over the flimsy handle. End rods add a lot. They add a lot of integrity. I personally don't like using them because there's a negative effect to them. There's a negative effect to blaze rods as well, this blazing here. You'll notice some of these items will add or change or remove or whatever. Like the end rod has reverb and the blaze rod has blazing. Then there's other things like the netherite handle. Once you get to that point, netherite handles are pretty good. They add a lot of durability, especially over like the blaze rod, for example. The netherite adds a lot of durability and an extra integrity over it. But for now, we're just going to use a spruce handle, and that'll give us 1 extra integrity. We still don't have enough. We have 6 out of 5 instead of 6 out of 4. So what can we do? Well, we can remove this module. If you take this and you make it a tool butt, for example, let's just make it an iron tool butt. See that it removes an integrity. If you make it a wood tool butt, it would remove 2. See, you could kind of hover over it. It tells you what's going on. So there's some other things you could do. Under handle, you could wrap it, or you could enchant it. Enchanting an item, you could actually do on all like tool sides of it. So if you wanted to enchant something, you could put your enchanted book on the left head, the right head, or the handle. Anytime you see a plus sign, the plus sign means that you get that for free. Like you could just do that. And I'll show you a better example later, but just keep that in the back of your mind. So now we could wrap this thing. You could use a bunch of different things. I personally just like to use leather, but you could wrap your handles. And then you have binding. We haven't talked about binding yet, but there's a couple of uses, one of which adds integrity. See that? 5 out of 8. I should also mention that when you have an item in here, you'll have this little icon. This is like a knife, a cutting. So you need a tier 2 cutting implement. Most swords can be used for cutting. We have a bunch of swords in here, but I do have a short blade over here specifically for cutting. Another thing to note is if you have these racks hanging around your base, kind of like I do right now, they can affect this workbench. So what do I mean? So I showed you the different tiers of hammer and how you needed a certain tier to add different items. Well, you don't have to keep it in your inventory. You could keep it hung up on the wall. So that's pretty cool. So, moving on, you've modified your tools to your liking. Now you want to modify your weapons and shields to your liking. So I have a couple of different swords here, and these are some of them. So you have Sturdy Guard, Throwing Knife, and Howling Blade. The Throwing Knife is pretty easy. It's a sword that you could throw. The Sturdy Guard is a sword that you could modify and give yourself the ability to block with it. Now you can't block indefinitely, and then it goes into cooldown, but you can block everything with this. Projectiles, melee attacks, everything like that. The Howling Blade is kind of an interesting one. I'll try my best to show you this one, but I'm not sure that I'll be able to. But basically, oh, there we go. If you swing your sword, it gives you the option, or the ability, rather, to deflect projectiles. I'm pretty sure it works on most projectiles. My friend and I tested it out, and he was shooting me with magic spells, even, from Ars Nouveau, and I was able to block them using that Howling Blade. So it was really cool. I was not expecting it. So, to modify a sword, you put it into the workbench, just like anything else, but you'll notice that it has only one thing, one head, so to speak. Unlike the tools, where these guys had like 2 heads that you can modify, the sword just has the blade. But you have the fuller, the iron, or the makeshift guard, the decorative pommel, and the hilt. Again, I like to just automatically modify the hilt. You can modify it to whatever you want later, but I like to modify the hilt. The blade, you could upgrade it to a throwing knife, and that's because we have that guy nearby. The guard, you can make the Sturdy Guard, and that's because we have that guy nearby. Or the Howling Blade, you could add to the fuller, and that's because we have that guy nearby. It's important to note, by the way, that as soon as you make any modifications to this item, even though I only added a handle, and it's still an iron sword, and it doesn't do anything special, it is now considered a Tetra sword. Why is that important? Well, for example, enchanting. There are only so many enchants that you could put on this item. You could still enchant it just like a normal sword after it becomes a, quote, Tetra sword, but if you wanted to add anything else to it, say you get sharpness 4 in your enchanting table, and you wanted to make it sharpness 5 with a sharpness book, you can't do that in an anvil. You have to do it in here. So if you have an enchanted item and throw it into a Tetra workbench, it might, in fact, it probably will take some of those enchants off. So you almost always want to start from scratch. So, remember earlier when I said that the pluses are just freebie extras that you could add? So one of the things that's important in is swords, because you have the ability to add a carved hook, a serrated edge, and temper the blade. They're pretty understandable what they are. Keep in mind too, these are using up integrity slots. This is why I like to have as many integrity slots on my swords as possible. So I'm a big fan of the swords in Tetra. Okay. Next up we have shields, and shields can be super awesome. So check this out. We have an iron buckler, an iron heater, an iron tower shield with a sturdy iron boss, and an iron tower shield with an iron spike. So these work the same way. You throw your shield in, but there's different things that you could do with them based on your selections. So this one, this tower shield with the spike, makes it so that when you're blocking melee attacks, it has a chance to damage the attacker. The sturdy boss can shield bash enemies. So let's get our iron golem friend. I'll show you. This is actually really powerful as well. Hello, friend. Sorry to use you again. So what you do is you crouch, right click, and then your things go into cooldown and you won't be able to block. But I mean, it does a surprising amount of damage. So then we have the iron heater plate, and the heater plate kind of works like the sturdy iron guard sword. It allows you to block, but only temporarily, and then it goes into cooldown. But I added an aerodynamic trim to this, which is one of these options right here. See how it has the little plus? And the iron buckler, I believe I added the same to. No, I didn't. But you could also add it to the iron buckler. You can't add the aerodynamic trim to the tower shields, though. Where did our little test friend go? But the aerodynamic trim allows you to actually throw your shield. So normally, if you hold right click, you block, right? And it only blocks for a certain amount of time, and then it stops. You can see that little bar right under my crosshairs. Where are you going? But if you crouch right click, it allows you to throw it. Now the only reason it's not leaving my inventory is because it's creative, but it's super cool. And then the iron buckler, the last shield. The buckler's interesting. It doesn't actually allow you to block with it, but it adds a passive toughness. So it provides 4 toughness when held, versus, these other shields don't even have that toughness option up here. Okay, so we're moving right along. We've talked about the different war items, chapters 1 through 8. I haven't shown you all of them, but feel free to play with them yourselves. They're a lot of fun. The short blade is cool because you could use it as an offhand attack weapon, whereas normally you couldn't do that. But with the short blade you can. Oh man, I love using the short blade. So there's one tool we haven't talked about yet, and that's the shovel. Now the shovel could be turned into a couple of different things. If you check it out, there's more options than normal here with the handles. So you have basic handles as normal, light handles, and long handles. The long handles do exactly that. They're longer. They allow you to have a longer reach. The light handles, however, allow you to throw it. If you modify the shovel head, you can actually craft it into a spearhead. And this is super cool. So check it out. I have a spear and a javelin. So the spear is a long handle, and it gives you a +2 reach distance. That's insane. Reach distance on this thing? Like, look at that. That's crazy. But I mean, look at how far away I am. Yeah, that's so good. The javelin is also another good one because you could throw it. Alright, there's one more thing that you could upgrade that I want to talk about, and that's the Holosphere. So check this out. None of these things matter. The only thing that matters is the scanner. It's not overly expensive, but, I mean, slightly. It's an eye vendor, So, there's a lot going on here. But basically, it'll allow you to modify your Holosphere to scan in different patterns based on whatever you want. So now it'll actually scan for Tetra items. Tetra, let me call it ancient blocks, quote unquote there. There's a new option as well now, adjustable. We don't have what we need yet for this, but for bolts, we'll hopefully find one of those. And you can't add sweeper again. It doesn't do anything. I'm sure it'll let you craft it, and it probably even uses your eye vendor. It does, but it does nothing. So, why is this good? So, if you take a look at the top of my screen now, there's this scanner bar. How do you read this? Well, the Holosphere is searching in the direction that I'm looking for Tetra structures, for ancient blocks. And when it finds it, it emits this really high-pitched tone, and the scanner turns red. If you're looking above where it's at, it'll have the red lines on the bottom and still emit the tone. And if you're looking below where it's at, again, it'll have the red lines on the top and still emit the tone. It doesn't even need to be in your hand. As long as you have it in your inventory, it'll make that sound. So, all this talk about Tetra structures, let's go find one. Two of the biggest items you are going to need is your hammer, as high of a tier as you can make, and your iron claw. We haven't talked about the claw, but you just modify it like you modify any other tool head. So, I have a Tetra structure here, and there are a few things that we need to take a look at in here. Starting with this guy. So, you see these symbols here? The little hammer icon? That's a new symbol we haven't seen yet, and that's also a hammer icon. Let me hop into survival, and I'll show you how to open these guys. Now, there's three icons, but for the crates, you don't have to use all three. So, when you have the item that you need, notice that it'll highlight white. When you have it with you, but it's not being held, it'll highlight yellow. And when you don't have it, it becomes red. So that symbol is like a prying symbol, and it means that you need a claw in order to open it. And you just right click. And you're going to end up with a lot of this metal scrap. So let's go ahead and open up some of these guys and see if we can get lucky. Hey, that's actually one of the things that I really wanted. Another type of container that you'll come across is this guy here, the forged container. Now, this has a hammer, a hammer, a hammer, a hammer. So, let's go ahead. Once you get it, once it clicks, I don't even know what to call it, this latch will turn black. So if it stays that color, even after you hit it, you have to hit it again. There we go. Now we can move on. I'm pretty sure the order doesn't matter. In fact, if I wanted to, I could switch to that one. Yeah. And then I could come back, and then I could hit this one. And then the icon changes. It is now a pry icon. So if we open this bad boy up, oh, that's perfect, actually. You'll notice that I just got mining fatigue. Mining fatigue 6. So sometimes you won't be able to open this thing right off the bat. Honestly, I have no idea why. I have no clue. But I just keep trying until it works. Even with the mining fatigue, eventually it'll work. Boom, it's open. So these containers are really cool. I mean, like, super cool. They hold a lot of different stuff. More metal scrap, which is going to come in handy. And then the good stuff, like a chthonic extractor and some pistons. Now be careful. Notice at the top of my screen, forged container, it says it still has some stuff in there. But, Sned, I thought you cleared out the whole thing. These things have 3 compartments. How cool is that? Right? Oh my goodness, it's super cool. So I really like the forged containers. They're super cool. If you have silk touch on a hammer, you can actually pick it up and take it with you. Otherwise, if you break it, it just becomes like scrap for you. Here, I'll show you. If you break this guy, see, we just got metal scrap. Okay, so those are the 2 different types of containers. Next up, we have these vents, these forged vents. Now, there are several different points on them. Here's one point. Normally, all 4 of these will be active. Once they're combined like this, even though they're 2 separate blocks, you have to do it in order. But anyways, we hammer that point, and then we could open this guy. And we do get scrap for that. So we hammer that. You could tell by the little, like, white, palish, whatever icon, whatever color that little dot is. Here, this one has 2. So we need to do both of these, and then we could use our claw to open it. Now inside, you'll notice the sculk catalyst. Normally, underneath these things, not always though, yep, there will be a stray spawner. It is awful, and I hate their very being, but just keep that in mind. Ah, here we go. This is one of the rooms that I wanted to find. So you'll find these forged workbenches all over these structures. Sometimes there's going to be like 1 or 2, and they'll have a schematic behind it, an ancient schematic. You can't actually move these or mine them up, even with a netherite hammer. However, cardboard boxes, I just found out, work. And if you want to move it, go for it. Okay, so these schematics work exactly like the schematics that we had up in our little base. You just can't move these, and that's it. So, this is the Ancient Schematic Extractor. It tells you exactly what tool it needs for you to be able to use it. So, what does that mean? Well, if we put a pickaxe in here, we could use the chthonic extractor, and it has multiple uses, but this is arguably the best, and we could actually add the extractor to the pickaxe, to its second head. Now, it's important to note that if we do this, notice up top, we lose a mining level. So your iron pickaxe will no longer count as an iron pickaxe. It'll be 1 block below that. Most of the time, I think that's worth it. Especially if you have like a netherite pickaxe and you add this chthonic extractor, then it could still mine everything. But you no longer get that synergy bonus that I talked about way back when. So if you hover over this thing, you'll see that it says hammer into bedrock to extract minerals from below. You don't have to worry about that, just because we're not going to talk about that, but if you do exactly what it says, then you'll be happy, I promise. But because of this, we have the extractor available. It says made available due to an item in your inventory or from a nearby schematic. So repurposes a chthonic extractor to allow the tool to break several blocks at a time. Several blocks at a time. This is incredible. Check this out. It almost looks like a hammer, but you're using it the other way around. So if we now mine out this wall, boom. It mines in a 3x3. Now, this thing's actually really nice, and I'm sure you might have seen the bar, but we'll show it now. Every item you make will have this hone bar, progression towards honing this item. So what that means is once you hit 100%, it'll allow you to take that item and upgrade it. I'm not going to talk about honing right now, but I will just say that you could hone most parts of your tools. So if you hone the extractor, you could actually make it dig out more. I think right now, well, I'll show you what my pickaxe does in the survival world. All right, we are back in SMP with this Tetra Coliseum behind me. This is a Coliseum that I built to kind of showcase different Tetra weapons and tools and whatnot. This is some of the stuff that I've shown you guys already. Different types of swords, and they could do different things, and these aren't fancy enchants, they're just loyalty, so I could throw this and it'll come back to me. I wanted to show you my current weapons. So I have an iron longbow, which I'm not going to talk about, but you could do a lot with bows. And one of the things that I've done with my bow is I've actually added the ability to zoom in with it, which is pretty cool. I just can't aim to save my life. But anyways, then we have my serrated hooked sword. I use this thing a lot, and you can see its attack damage is 14.5. And then lastly is my netherite extractor pickaxe. So, when it comes to honing items, it'll tell you, if you hover over it and hold shift, it'll tell you how many times you've honed it and what you've honed. So you see how it's split up into sections? You have netherite pick as one section, extractor as another section, and then netherite handle as another section. So I haven't honed anything on the handle yet, but I've honed the extractor to get potency 5, and potency is what you want if you want to increase how much you could dig with it. And then I've honed the netherite pick, so the left tool head, I've honed it to increase its mining tier, I've honed it to increase its efficiency, and I've honed it to increase its durability. It's not too hard to hone your items, especially not if you go to the nether and just like machine gun the netherrack in there with your pickaxe. Anyways, potency. So, how much can I dig with this simple pickaxe? Let's find out. Yeah, that was pretty good. Alrighty. Before going back to the creative world, there's one last thing that I want to show you, and it involves repairing. You'll see that I have a diamond short blade, a diamond decorative pommel, a bone hilt, and an iron fuller and ring. So, to repair this item, even though it's not missing any durability, it doesn't matter, it'll still let me repair it. It's only going to take one bone to repair this. One bone, that's it. So it'll actually randomize one material that you used in your craft, and it'll require that to repair. So check it out. Now it'll be something different. Okay, one iron ingot, and that will fully repair any tool. Next up, another iron ingot, and you could just keep going on and on like this. Eventually, yeah, you'll use diamonds, but I mean, think of a diamond sword or a diamond pickaxe. When you repair it in an anvil, it's always going to cost diamonds, you know? You cannot repair these in an anvil, though. And we're back. Okay. So, there is one final thing that I want to talk about, and that is how good this Holosphere actually is. So, we're gonna explore why the Holosphere is super good. For that, we'll need some obsidian, and we'll need some flint and steel. You guessed it, we're going to the nether. For this, we're going all the way down to Y15. So, everybody's been to Y15 before in the nether, right? What do you find here? Well, you find ancient debris. So, how does that help us now? Well, with your Holosphere, you could actually detect ancient debris. So let me clear out a little bit of room so that we could scan around here. Okay. It's not the prettiest, but guess what? It's gonna work. So, you see how we have the scanner setting on our Holosphere? And I mentioned before that it allows us to scan for like ancient blocks, like Tetra blocks. Well, with this, you could find more than just that. If you notice right now, the scanner is picking something up. You could also hear the sound. I started off by looking right here, and it's showing that I'm looking above it, so I need to look down, and it's right in the middle. And what do we find if we dig this way? Sometimes you'll need to adjust a little bit. And there it is. Ancient debris. Another thing that I like to do, if you put the Holosphere into here, go to scanner, into a workbench that is, go to scanner and adjustable. If you add the bolt to it, oh, you need two? Okay. If you add the bolts to it, you could craft that, and then it actually lets you adjust this. So, this is the only item that I've seen the tweak work for, but you could upgrade the range and the span. So let's just say we leave the span alone, but the range. And this will make the scan slower, which is a bit unfortunate, but it'll be able to scan up to, it's like 2 chunks away, you could find ancient debris. Meaning that if you just found your first piece over there, you now don't need to move anymore. You'll be able to find more in the same area. But anyways, guys, that's going to be all from me today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. And seriously, if anybody has any more questions, let me know. Just put something down in the comments. I swear I will read it and I will answer it to the best of my ability at the very least. If you want me to go into greater detail on anything in particular, let me know that too, and I will. But other than that, that's going to be all, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next episode.